You may have heard of whiplash, but most people don't realize how easy it actually occurs. And it doesn't have to be from just an auto accident. It can be from sports injuries, it can be from a falling injury, so many things can cause whiplash. So let me explain to you how it occurs. We have a spine here, and what happens is the first thing that happens in a whiplash injury from an auto accident, if someone gets hit from behind, their head goes into hyperextension like this, and then it goes into hyperflexion like this. And what happens is it usually ends up forward. It can either end up straight or forward, but it loses its curve. Now the normal curve is supposed to look like this. It's supposed to have an arc, and it's supposed to be a 43-degree arc. Okay? And a lot of times after I see people after whiplash injuries, it looks somewhat like this, or it looks like this, a kyphosis. It's reversed. And what happens here is that when the head is forward, okay, the average head weighs 12 to 15 pounds. When the head is forward and it looks like this, as you can see, I jutted my head forward, call that forward head posture. Okay, and if you took a bowling ball that was 12 to 15 pounds and I had you hold it out in front of you, after 30 seconds, you're going to throw it back at me and say, oh my goodness, I have all this pressure and stress in my shoulders and neck and upper back. I can't hold that. Well, the person that's suffering from whiplash, their head is just like that 12-pound bowling ball and is forward just like this. Now gravity is pushing down on it all day, and this could go on for years, for hours to years. And what happens is it causes all kinds of wear and tear in those discs. It can cause headaches, neck pain, upper back pain, shoulder pain, pain down the arms into the hands. It can even cause lower back pain. And most people don't realize that. So what happens here with the whiplash injury, here's two segments. If I took two segments out of your vertebra in your neck or lower back, they look like this. So here's a vertebra, there's a disc and another vertebra here. We have tendons and ligaments that attach here in the front, and also tendons and ligaments that attach in the back. When someone has a whiplash injury or hyperextension flexion injury, what happens is the muscles become tensed up, they can become stiff, tight, they can also become fatigued or go into spasm. And what happens here, when the tendons that attach the muscles to the bones, they sometimes can actually tear. We call that there's micro tearing and micro trauma to the tendons and ligaments. The tendons attach the muscles to the bone, and the ligaments attach bone to bone. So it's very important that after a person does have a whiplash injury, they should get checked by a chiropractor within the first 72 hours. What happens here is 72 hours after an injury, scar tissue, studies have shown that scar tissue starts to form in the joints if they don't have full range of motion. Okay? And now most people don't realize this also, that just with speeds of 8 to 20 miles per hour, which is 8 to 20 miles per hour is not fast at all. We call those little fender benders. What happens is the force that's exerted on the brain and brainstem can be well over 11 Gs. That means that if you weigh only 100 pounds, the G-force that's exerted on the brain and brainstem would be 11 times 100, or 1,100 pounds of force to the brain and brainstem. So now if you got hit at 40 miles per hour and you weighed double that, just say you weighed 150 or 200 pounds, we'd have to double that and double that again. So that's a lot of stress on the brain and brainstem here. So what I want to show you is how these models here relate to whiplash. Okay, so we start with the normal model here, okay, which is again the vertebra with a nice healthy disc and another vertebra. This is phase 1 of spinal degeneration. Now I want you to understand that this is progressive in nature, okay? This is phase 1, and if you look here between normal and phase 1, the disc is starting to bulge here, okay? And this is 10 years after the site of the injury. This does not occur over time because of age. This is the result it starts from where the accident occurs and it continues. So this is 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years. What happens here is between phase 1 and normal and phase 1, what happens is when the body is out of alignment and the bones and discs are out of alignment, more than 200 times the normal pressure is exerted on the bone surface and discs. And what happens is the discs will wear down, and as they continue to wear down, they start to bulge. And they hit and they put pressure on those nerve roots that you can see out the back here. Okay? And as they continue to wear and tear and grind over years, 10 years later, now we move into phase 2. Phase 2, as you can notice, There's lots of bone spurs and degenerative, and we call this degenerative disc disease. And the bone spurs start to form. Now you'll see the nucleus here starts to migrate out, and we call that a disc herniation. When the nucleus breaks through the annulus, the outside fibers, we call that a herniation. Discs can herniate, and if it continues to progress, it leads to severe spinal degeneration. These are people with chronic pain. They have pain all the time usually. And we can work with helping them mitigate the pain, but what happens is eventually there's no space in there. This is going to continue to degenerate. And if it gets very unstable and completely looks like that, eventually the neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons, especially the orthopedic surgeons, they will actually put titanium bolts and screws in here. And this is a titanium, again, plate with screws. And these screws in this plate here, they go right into the vertebra here, and they try to hold it and stabilize it. So when someone is, again, when they're moving from phase 2 to phase 3, like I just showed you, they sometimes will go ahead and put this in depending on the severity of pain of the patient, okay? This one here is a picture of a lumbar spine, a lower back. These, again, are big screws here. I mean, I wouldn't even put these in my drywall. And you can see how big they are going into the side of the vertebra here and into the sacrum. And what they do is they use these titanium screws and bolts here to, again, stabilize the spine so it doesn't continue to degenerate. Because, again, like I said, it's progressive in nature. So it is very important that you get checked by a chiropractor within the first 2 to 3 days after an auto accident. Because what happens is in the United States, 4 million people every year suffer from auto accidents. And those little fender benders that we talk about, they think it was nothing. It actually can cause major damage and progressive damage in the spine. So you might be sitting here for a different reason, but I am sure you know someone with somebody that the chiropractic care can help, whether they're your friends or family members. Bring them to your chiropractor and have them take a look at them just for a checkup to see if they had whiplash.